All right, I think we are recording now. All right, well, thanks again, Pierce, for getting everyone together today. I know you're familiar with SpinFX IT. Michael, I'm not sure if we've met before. Have you ever had any exposure to SpinFX? You're on mute if you're talking. I don't know if you can hear. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not sure. Oh, there he is.
Hey, sorry, my browser was frozen.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. Just had to wait for it to set. No, I've heard about you. When I was at Presence of IT, I know that there was some work that was done, and I'm sure our paths crossed at one point. But yeah, I look forward to knowing more about it here than you guys.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I thought your name looked familiar. I thought, I think he was at Presence as well. So, well, we won't spend too much time, of course, going into who we are and where we came from. But just for the folks that jump on that aren't familiar, we're going to hit a couple slides. And then I'm going to hand off to Stephen Gallo, who is our North American product architect. He's going to walk you guys through our SpinFX IT migration, easy migration solution, and then also the overview of our easy go live solution. And then we'll wrap up with any questions and things like that. But we can also, keep it open, keep it flowing. If you have a question as we go along, feel free to just stop and ask. This is, for your guys' education, we want to make sure you understand what the offering is as far as our migration toolkit goes. And then if there's anything else you want to talk about, we can either set up a separate demo for that or a separate discussion. And I know, Pierce, I see Heather's jumped on, that you guys are getting ready to respond to an RFP for Bexar County, Texas. So kind of keeping that in mind as we go along. I'm sure Steve will have some questions for you about that project, so he can point out to you some of the functionalities and things that would be beneficial for that project.
Yeah, and I got another one for you in California as well, so we can
fantastic.
talk about that. Yeah,
that's great. Well, as a short round of introductions on the SpinFX side, you guys obviously have heard my voice. I'm Chris Burke. I manage our partner relationships here in North America. But on the phone with me today are two folks. I've got Stephen Gallo, who I said is going to be doing the demonstration, as well as Brian Erickson. And Brian's fairly new to the organization. He's our Director of Consulting Services. So he and his team would be helping you on any projects for any customers. So I'll just let Brian say hello real quick.
Yeah, hi everyone. Like Chris said, been here for about 6 months now, and love the products. And I think you'll really like the tools here from a implementation perspective. Should make projects much easier to do. And then we're here kind of to support you, and we're not here to make money off of you from services, but we will be standing behind you and helping you with enablement.
Great point. And Stephen, do you want to say hello before we get started?
Sure, thanks, Chris. So as Chris said, I'm Steve Gallo, product architect for North America, SpinFX IT. I've been bounced around this place for about 15 years or so in the SAP world. And to Chris's point, I'm going to be taking through the demonstration today. I'll probably ask you guys a few questions up front on these projects you got going on so that we can drive the discussion. Chris?
Okay, thank you. So I know, Pierce, I know your role and Heather's role, but Michael, I'm not 100% sure what you're doing over there at Phoenix. Could you just give us a quick intro?
Absolutely. Yeah, I work on the delivery side. I lead essentially our delivery practice and all of our consultants for SuccessFactors. So primarily delivery. That's my role here.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah. Excellent. All right, let's kind of move along, Steve, so we can make sure we have time for questions. Next slide. So just as a recap of who we are and what we do, again, like I know you guys are familiar with this, and now Heather, I apologize, it's probably a repeat for you, but it never hurts to hear it again. So we are an accredited SAP app developer. So as you probably have seen us around the block for many, many years, our products are certified and things like that, but we do have a whole suite of solutions outside of what you're going to see today, just as a reminder of the things that we can offer for you and your current customers and your prospects around things like document generation in the cloud. We have our Strato document solution, really slick. I highly recommend if you've got anybody that has implemented talent modules or is struggling with getting documentation out of the systems, whether it's total comp statements, benefit statements, letters for employees, things like that, offer letters. Take a look at Strato, because I think it's really a phenomenal product that we have. And Steve's also the guy that kind of helped develop that one on the line, so he knows a lot about it. We also have our cloning solution that allows you to copy data from your production to your test environment, your dev environments, and scramble and create that data that you need for testing. We actually offer that. And all these, solutions outside of Strato are for on-premise and the cloud as well. Easy Reporter, our flagship product, now works not only on on-premise systems, but in hybrid and full cloud environments. So if you're on EC, ECP, we've got you covered there. It works just the same as it always has. Easy Payroll Control Center down in the bottom left there. That is kind of what we call our cherry on top of the standard SAP Payroll Control Center. You're able to leverage the Easy Reporter solution to create policies that will help benefit your business on that payroll processing cycle. You guys probably know what Payroll Control Center does at its core, but we kind of enhance it and really make it a really robust, effective tool for the customers. And then we also have, we're going to see today, the last two, migration and go live for SuccessFactors. Again, keeping in mind that this can be, Steve will cover out what they go through, but this is for anybody moving to EC or ECP. Any questions?
Yeah, quick question on Strato. Would that compete with like an OpenText?
Yeah.
On a certain level, yes. Steve, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so from a document generation standpoint, 100%. From a, if you want to call it a feature by feature landscape, we're probably, once we have the storage built at the end of this year, we will be a major competitor to OpenText.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And our price point is a lot better. Just
yeah, that's what I'm getting. So OpenText is so expensive, so good to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely going to be a threat to them once the storage is ready to go. So great. Great question. All right, next slide. Okay, and again, just to recap, we've been around the block for a long time. That 16 really should be 19. I've told our marketing team to update that. But we're global. We have a lot of countries supported. We work in multiple languages. North America, we really have quite a robust offering for our customers. And I know, Pierce, you guys are SLED focused a lot, and we do have quite a few customers in that industry. So we have plenty of references for you guys. Of course, if the time comes at these RFPs where they want to talk to references or see them, we've got plenty for you in that industry as well. All right. I think the next slide is Stephen.
Yeah, so it's funny, Chris, because I updated this 5 million to 7 million because I think is the new number, and I totally forgot about the years. So, all right, guys, what I'm gonna take you through today is some high-level decks that describe the feature-level stuff of what Easy Migration and Easy Go Live do. Obviously, we don't have enough time to show you every tiny little thing in there, but I will also take you through a demonstration so you get an idea from the end user feel. But you guys brought up the fact that, you got this Bexar County in Texas, and you probably have another one in California. So I'll start with the question so I drive this probably correctly. What is Bexar County moving to? Like, what are they on? Are they going ECP? Are they going HANA? Does anybody want to talk to that?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So they're utilizing Infor for finance, and then they're still on ECC for OMPA, benefits, time, and payroll. And they'll be looking, the RFP is essentially, out there, to replace ECC. So I actually think Infor has the upper hand there, since they're already driving finance, and they can, make the case. It's one solution if they bring in HR and payroll. But, I think from SAP's eyes, you kind of have to go after it because it is an install base. So that's a little bit about them. The one in California it's a little bit more exciting. This is a judicial council. They've already started the move on the financial side to S/4HANA, and now they've released the RFP. And we had production support meeting with them regarding they're on OMPA, PY, and then they just released the RFP for cloud payroll. So there's going to be a lot of competition out there. I think that's one where SAP has a stronger footprint since they're already investing on the finance side to migrate on the HR side, if that helps.
That helps perfectly. So cool. They're all on SAP systems because we have different things. Like if you're not on SAP for certain things, you are on SAP for others in there. So I'll touch on those, but we'll kind of drive this for those two customers directly going from SAP to some other SAP platform, whether it be HANA, Cloud Payroll, etc. Right. Yeah. So we've built these tools, obviously. Go ahead.
Oh, Stephen, I was going to let you know. I mean, then, besides just, new opportunities, we have about a client base of 90 that are all on ECC still. So there's some mix in there. I think we're running production support for, I think, 30 ECC payroll clients right now. But then we also, we have some that are a mix. So they might be on PeopleSoft for HR, but just to let you know that we have a massive install base for ECC as well.
That's cool. Then this will help you drastically, and I'll give you some numbers behind some of the moves we've done recently. Because honestly, we built this product because people are in that boat, right? Or companies are in that boat. They're sitting there on their on-premise system. They want to get rid of their shelfware. They want to move to the cloud, and that's a pain in the neck, right? You have this existing payroll process that works. Why reinvent the wheel? So what we've done and what you'll see today is ways to migrate pretty much everything that they're doing existingly to the cloud. And not only that, due to validation of the data between it, right? So we're going to see some tools today that not only move config, they move employee data, and then you also have the ability in some cases to stop having to answer that question, which when I used to do implementations was always there, like, how much history can we bring over? And the answer would be like, none, throw it in a warehouse. We'll just go take the top of stack. I'm going to show you ways to get around those types of questions out there. Because the two products we're looking at, and they are separate for a reason, and I'll explain why, is migration and easy go live out there, right? The left side of this is easy migration, and that's typically a tool that is used by the consultancy, right? So that is the tool that's going to move your config, and I'll get into the details of what config it actually moves on some further slides out there. Not only will move the config, it also has capabilities to move some test employees over, right? Because you're obviously going to, through different iterations, bring 100 people, bring 1,000 people, bring, whoever you need to validate that payroll is actually recalculating correctly in the new system. Since your customers are already on SAP, we have neat ways where the tools can actually report between the two systems. So once you get all that stuff over calculated, you can actually report live between the two, the old system and the new system, to see if things are actually in line, right? You're not going to have to download payroll results, look stuff up, do all those fun things that we all, know and love to do during implementation out there. So we see that primarily on the consulting side, and I'll get into the details of that. Then we have the other product is called Easy Go Live, and it's partially used by the consultants, but there's also tools in here for the end users to use, the team that's actually going to have to validate that, hey, you know what, you guys did a good job, our payroll is correct. Because what it does is it has the same types of tools to compare some payroll results between the systems, but it's a little more robust and it's a little more user-friendly and identifiable to end users to help them validate, to say, hey, I made $1,000 in this system. Oh, I now make $1,500 in this system. There's something wrong, right? So we have some different tools in there to help with that. What it also has is some better analysis tools. So, I mean, your customers are already on SAP. They should understand the basic concepts of SAP payroll, but you always get those questions, during a migration or even after go live, right? This tool is actually designed to be used through the go live and hypercare phase where, all right, somebody has a retroactivity out there. Why did that retro occur, right? That question right there could pose, all right, I got to drill through the cluster, I got to roll recon, I got to do this, I got to look at master data. We have tools inside this system that will allow you to automatically figure out exactly what happened to that employee in the case of retroactivity or anything, right? Pay changes are a needle in the haystack, in my opinion. Why is this person's pay different from this period than last period? We give you that ability for not only the consultants, but also for the end users to more easily find those types of issues in the Go Live product. And I will show you some of that today. And this is kind of where the products sit in the timeline, right? So like the project I'm working on from day one, we started standing up easy migration, making the connections and getting things ready to move data from the old system to the new system. Because at some point, you have to get that config over and then you have to test it. So, during unit testing, you can use the migration solution out there to not only just move the config and the people, but again, we have some reports in there to help you out during this phase to say, hey, you know what, we did a good job, migrating this data. Let's move into SIT, and then let's, start using the Go Live solution, right? Because now you're going to have, the end users out there saying like, okay, is our payroll correct? And in some cases, it's obviously different, depending on the projects that I work on. In some cases, the consultants are 100% responsible for everything, parallel runs, all that sort of stuff. And you can, of course, use the Go Live solution for that. However, there have been cases where the end user, the customer, has to validate, all right, we have to compare our payroll and make sure it's right, it's on them. So we do have ways to do that or to show them how to do that. And obviously, to what Chris's point was earlier, we don't really make any dollars off the services for this. The idea is that, we do have that suite of products that, Chris spoke about at the beginning. And as you're going through the implementation, through these different phases out there, you'll probably find some, use cases that pop up to say, hey, what Spinifex IT solutions would be really good to help out with those processes, not just during, the implementation cycle, because Go Live and migration pretty much cover that, but going forward, right? Different reporting aspects when it comes to success factors, the document generation is always a crux out there. So that's the idea behind building these two solutions and adding them to our portfolio of products. I'm going to skip this slide out here because we talked about it kind of in depth. So what I'm going to do now is get into the detail. Actually, I'll pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions at this point.
Yeah, hi, this is Piers again. And I know every client's different, so this is hard to answer, but let's say, do you have any like stats out there? Like say you would originally bid a 12-month payroll project. If you use tools like Easy Migration, it can knock off, X months, or is there anything, around that? We've competed, for example, with Workday. We're bidding at 12 months and they're bidding at 6 months. I don't know how accurate that is, or the feasibility of them doing it correctly, but just curious on that.
You're talking about the full end-to-end implementation?
Yeah, and then utilizing these tools.
Yeah, so I can give you numbers to say how long it took us to move certain things over and accurately calculate payroll, and then you have to break that down into your structure of, how long does it typically take us to do that, to get a payroll accurately calculating. So in the case of Stepin Group, it took us 3 weeks to move all the config and get it calculating properly. In the case of Flight Safety, it took 6 days to actually get all the config moved and get it calculating properly. Now, why did Stepin take longer? Stepin was our first foray into this, so we were obviously fixing things, adding more tables, doing a little bug fix along the way. The Flight Safety one went super smooth, and SAP was actually running that too, which was good because, and I'm not saying you guys don't know what you're doing, but they obviously know what they're doing out there. All consultancies are not built the same out there, so they did a pretty good job of identifying the custom objects up front, doing those things. So when we were ready to move everything just moved, no problem. So if you do that due diligence up front now, so I say, do we have a blanket number to say, yeah, it's going to take, however long? I don't, but it's definitely measured in weeks and not months to get your payroll moved and calculating, if that helps you adjust your numbers in your project timeline.
Okay. No, thank you.
Okay. And we get better and better each time, right? Every little project, they're like, oh, they're using this table, we're using that table. We add all that stuff as the projects go on. So as we do post-mortems with, all of our customers to say, all right, what did we not have, right? Because you might have to go and do a manual table adjustment to get it into the system. But eventually, like the last one we just did, it was pretty smooth. We just still missed a couple tables, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Because this is what the migration product does, right? So it's built on some technology that we've had out there for like 15 years. So we always used to get the employee master data over, but we said, hey, you know what? Let's go get the configuration that goes with all that stuff as well. So what it's going to allow you to do is get, especially because you talk to those people, they're straight up ECC, on-prem, benefits, all that sort of stuff. We can get all the payroll configuration that goes along with it, and I'll show you exactly how it does that. Everything from personal administration, the info type setup, all those fun things. You can pick and choose too, right? Like org management is not a very popular thing in Employee Central Payroll, so you can choose, not to get that, or certain things that you do need to get for it to work out there. Time eval, again, not a popular thing out there, but we can bring that configuration over. And then, of course, everything about their pay schedules, their payroll areas, dates, and all those things that are out there. We also have a tool, before you go to do this, you can actually analyze which tables are going to have collisions, right? What's in the new system that's not in the old system, especially as you move forward in a project, or you get to a project that's already in process, right? Like, hey, we already have this project going on. It would be great if, all those rest of this config we could move, but we've already done 20 steps in the project, right? So we have ways to analyze and say, all right, you know what, we've already fixed this. Let's just go get that. So there's neat ways to detect the different bits of configuration you want to move or not move that are out there. Everything is stored in a transport, right? So it uses standard SAP methodologies out there. So if you're in system legacy, and you want to, move that stuff into the new dev system, if you would, that stuff can be written directly to a transport, or it can be written directly to the target system out there, which is kind of nice too. So there's definitely a lot of things that it gets to make sure your payroll is run accurately out there. The next step of that is, so you get your config over there and you're like, cool. So we got our base config. We grabbed, maybe this time we just grabbed payroll, personal administration, and we grabbed the benefits node, because we're obviously still gonna have to calculate 401k, and they have some really fun rules about that in the new system. Or they had some really fun rules in general as a company. The next thing you have to do is copy the employee data. And this is the solution that we leveraged, to build the rest of it on. What we tell people is, they always ask, what is a copy? And I say, copies enough employee master data to accurately recalculate their payroll. So you can make choices on what info types you want, custom info types, the different bits of time clusters if you need that. So I do have customers who are actually still using CATs and like other boxes and things of that nature. So you get some flexibility out there with what you want to move over. You also get the history, right? So the STEPN project, they had only been on SAP for 4 years, and they're like, we want all our history. And we said, no problem, right? So we grabbed all their payroll history and brought that along with it. We didn't have to do the whole, let's load the hire record and then let's just load the top of stack type thing. You just tell the solution to say, hey, go get everything, and it does, right? So they have their full payroll reporting out there, historically out there. So that's the added bonus there. And then, of course, you have to compare it. And I'll just show you this. Talking about it is silly, but you can compare the wage types, compare the master data between the two systems to see, hey, did the clone and the payroll actually work, right? That's the idea behind that, because you definitely have to validate it in the end. And with that, I'll kind of take you into Easy Migration, and we'll kind of talk about some of those features of the product. Does anybody have any questions before I jump into the system? Okay, I probably got logged out, and of course I did. Let's just log back in here. So I'm going to log into one of our demo systems where I have Easy Migration set up. Boop. And we'll say yes. All right, so all of our stuff is ABAP based. And again, they're all certified by SAP out there. I know that one slide had a couple certifications they're missing. We'll talk to the marketing team on that one. But essentially, you load the transports into the system. It's a pretty painless process. You set up some security to get access to our transactions. In this case, we're going into Easy Migration. So it's /spin/EM. We've kind of laid it out by the functions that you would do, during a project, right? Are you going to replicate the configuration? Are you going to replicate and copy those employees right out there? Are you going to compare the results, right? All the things I talked about in the deck. Right, but the first thing you're going to do is what we call in here our client builder, is you're going to copy the config. And this is probably the biggest part of what makes Easy Migration out there. Because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to pick some boxes over here, and I'm going to populate them with a variant to tell Easy Migration what we're going to give, what we're going to bring. But instead of talking about every little detailed box, let me just pull up a pre-saved variant so things are populated for me. And you would eventually have a variant as well. So I'm going to push config from this demo system, DMO, over to my DM1 box, right? So we'll just plug this in here. Okay. So essentially you got two choices, and I've done it both ways. Doesn't matter which way you go. I've had to do it other ways because people's RFCs, they couldn't get straight. But you can copy data from another system into the current system. So you could pull it in. So you could log into the new dev box and pull the config from the other system. Or you can push the data, right? You can copy the data from the current system to another system. And usually it depends on the security at the customer, right? Sometimes the customer will not let the consultants log into whatever system they want to get the good config out of. So you got to pull it. In other cases, they're like, yeah, have all the access you want. Here's the keys to production, and you can just push it out of the old system. But either way, it works just fine. Then there's some setup that we have to do, right? So this is all done through RFCs. Right, so if we're going to push the config from one box to another, we would set up the RFC to say, hey, I'm logging DMO. Let's make an RFC connection to the new DM1 system, and it'll use that RFC to directly write the config into the new box. And if I filled it out, it would write it into a transport as well, which is nice because then you can see line by line all the detail of the config that came over. And in some cases, and honestly, the last one I did, oops, sorry, it's asking me to log in because of the RFC, that system, you can just overwrite everything. So you can check for collisions and say like, all right, let's leave what's in there and not take it all. I just take everything. I'm like, you want your old system to be in the new system, we'll just take it all out there. So there's a couple different options on what to get and what not to. But what it boils down to is this. There's different areas of the config that you can get. So you can get what we call the payroll config, which is the payroll node in the IMG, right? So if you're picking payroll USA, it's going to be everything under that node. We do those different certain things by countries out there. We can also do, again, we mentioned personal time management config is an option if you do need it. Personal management, which would be all the PA stuff, and OM. OM is actually excluded by default, but can be included in there. The benefits node is also under here. So I typically have to get that one in most cases out there. Payroll areas, all the different config for the calendars and all that sort of stuff. And then we call this, it's an Australian term, the top up, which is all those miscellaneous tables that aren't country specific, bank tables, things of that nature, the whole financial, different things out there, the CSKS, the functional areas, or controlling areas, excuse me, out there, we can bring that stuff as well. So typically you run a couple of these, you can do them all at once. I like to keep them broken out because it is a lot of data out there, just so I can analyze it further after I do the copy of what's in my transports, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say in this case, we're going to get the payroll config. Pretty simple. You pick your country. You can do more than one country at a time if you so wish. And then you choose, you go do the copy, but you can even preview it up front, right? So we can control what we want to get. And this will make total sense to anybody who's ever configured payroll. Essentially what we're doing is we're going in to the IMG, right? So we go in and we wrote code that iterates through it to say, all right, you picked country USA, let's go get payroll USA. And then you see all the fun things underneath the payroll USA node. It tells you how many records are in the source, how many are in the target, what records match. And then of course, things you have warnings on, right? Things that are going to collide, and we'll take a brief look at that. You can exclude certain nodes. What we've done is, we've taken our best guesses and feedback from our, prior clones and whatnot. And, we've excluded certain things by default out there, but should you find out that there is a table or something that we did exclude, you can always go back there and add it. But it does make it pretty straightforward to say, all right, what's actually, colliding here? You can kind of go in and say, oh, well, T549N, this is all the payroll schedules and stuff. What's going on here? And it will tell you exactly, let's just show the differences, what's off between the two systems, right? So in our source, you can see it's really just the names of this table. This one's biweekly and this one's biweekly with a capital W, right? So it will go all the way down, to the field level and show you what exactly is different, what is not, and then you can choose, do you want to get this? Do you not want to get this? In my case though, I'm a pretty simple guy. I usually just check the box and we take it all, and it goes on over in those cases, right? So in essence, what we've given you is a tool to get the config. You can also get the payroll schemas and rules out there, right? You can give it the top level schema that's out there, and it will get all your sub schemas for the different payrolls and or payroll areas you have out there. You do have to tell it which schemas that you want. It will get all the features that are out there. I will give you the one caveat, because this question always comes up, is we don't currently get any technical objects out there. So if they have like a custom function in their payroll schema, they do have to manually add that to a transport to get it to move over. In our next release that comes out, we will actually have a way to identify the customizations that they've done in their payroll schema, because apparently a lot of customers don't know, the customizations they've made. So they'll still have to be moved manually. And then in another iteration, we're going to try to make it possible that we automatically add these things to the config copy to get it moved over. But you pick all your options, and then you run it, right? You can run it in the foreground, you can run it in the background. Time to take is usually, payroll config usually moves in about 10 to 20 minutes out there. The personal management config, depending on how much of that you get, because it's actually pretty large, I have seen it take 40 minutes out there. But it's not an arduous process, right? You're literally picking the options, you're pressing go, you're running in the background, and it writes your data over to the new system with, of course, there's a full log and everything of what occurred and what tables and entries that moved over. So that's the way you get your config migrated over to a new system. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, fine.
Okay. All right. Once you get that config over to the system, we won't go into insane detail on this, but you want to move the employees, right? So you'll take maybe 100 people just to do your sanity check and start calculating payroll, because you're probably going to have errors, right? A few things here, maybe we missed a custom function. Oh, there's a Z table that they're using in here. Who knows what it might be? But it works the same kind of way, right? You figure out you're going to push or pull the data. what system do you want to get it from or push it to out there? Same type of thing. You'll pick some people, but then obviously the data to copy is different, right? The data to copy is where things get different out there, right? So do you want to get payroll results? Yep. Yeah, we want to copy payroll, probably. There's ways to set different dates of how much payroll you actually want to bring over. We can get all the history, but obviously if someone has 30 years of history, you might not want all that in their new system. So we can cut it down, last 7, last 2, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want their time eval tables out there? Do you want their info type audit logs? Maybe, maybe not. And then of course, you know, what info types do you actually want to get for them? We come pre-configured for a variety of countries out there. Obviously the United States is one of them, where we have a default set of info types that are relative for the US. So what it does is when it copies the employee, it says, oh, this guy's a US employee, let's go get these info types for him. You can see, where's 194, right? So we've got the standard US garnishments in here, but this list is configurable. So if they have custom info types, things they want to bring over, my last customer, it's 40 custom info types they still want it into their new system. And they were literally like old year-to-date payroll things that they didn't need. It was weird, but we got it done. We just added it to the list. You can choose again, of course, if you don't want org management out there, you can turn that off. I have found that HANA not so much, but when you're going to ECP, there are certain objects that you do want to come over, and you can get really fancy with this out there. You can choose which objects you want, which ones you don't. Central person actually does have to come over with it. So there is a function of copying the org data when we do that. But again, you have options, and we don't need to talk about this for a migration, but after go live occurs, if you are doing, you know, an Employee Central, you know, implementation, which you probably are, if their HR data is going to be in Employee Central and their payroll is going to be processed in another box, we can clone Employee Central data. You would not do this, obviously, during an implementation because they're not currently on Employee Central, but once they go live and you're in that productive mode where like, hey, let's copy some production employees down to QA, not only can you copy their ECP or ECC based data, you can also copy their Employee Central data from their Employee Central production down to their Employee Central QA system as well. So that's the employee cloning, right? So we've moved config. We've now moved some people. Does anybody have any questions about moving some people?
I was going to ask about the scrambling and sensitivity of data, but it looks like there's a scramble setting there. You can scramble data coming over. And as far as encryptions go, on sending all that, say you're a global customer regulated across Europe, United States, Asia, whatnot, are there encryption settings on all this to send personal information, or how's that handled?
It's encrypted across the RFC, right? So the RFC is set up, you know, with HTTPS and all that sort of stuff. When it comes to a scrambling rule, right? We deliver out of the box the base stuff, so things like name, address, bank account is here, dependents is here. Sometimes we have to add, you know, 105 information, user IDs and things of that nature. Sometimes I need to turn off the fact that we're scrambling the postal code in the state because they still need to do that to validate certain taxes and whatnot. But out of the box, the scrambling is here. When it comes to that country specific stuff, we do sometimes have some issues. We have to create some different rules for the different like ID types, right? Your national ID, we have social security. Some people have, you know, SIN in Canada. And in some cases, we have to create new rules to randomly populate those specific fields.
Gotcha. Yeah, national ID was the thing that came to mind. That kind of prompted the question. So,
yeah, it's a pain in the neck. Gets me every time. We actually, this one doesn't have it. I have to build a custom random table rule to make it work. We're working on like a regular expression type engine, so we could automatically say, all right, it's France. We have the regular expression. Let's just, you know, generate that one out there.
Cool.
Just one point on that as well about security and encryption is that the data is never sitting anywhere else at rest. So we're connecting directly to the respective SAP systems and just moving the data directly between them. So it's not like you're putting it out on a file system somewhere and then loading it back in or something.
Thank you.
The last part of the migration. Okay, was there a question? Sorry.
No. It's just I was saying thank you. That helps. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we always get that one too. We can write it to a file if you want it to, but I usually turn that off when we do these things. eventually you're going to want to compare the data, right? So employee comparison reports out here. This is a very basic example, but it's basic in the sense that me or you or anybody who's, comparing payroll results can do it, right? You would go in here and say, all right, what employees' payroll do we want to compare? Well, we copied over, the U.S. payroll area for period 7 of 2017. We need to, compare that payroll run between systems out there. You would pick some people to do this with. Obviously, you'd probably pick the whole payroll area for the demo. We only have a few employees jammed in here, and then you kick it off. So what this report actually does is it remotely talks to the other system out there. There's settings in here where you can pick one or more different systems to talk to, again, through an RFC. So it literally takes that report, sends it over to the other system, runs it, and then sends the data back to the new system. And then, of course, you can quickly see, all right, so from this person, this one's only showing errors. Like, oh no, there's some matches over here. We can see that, it's comparing the wage type by wage type going down the board, the hours, the rate, and the amount. And then, of course, you have the remote system that you connected to, hours, rate, and amount. And obviously, this is just showing mismatches. That one just didn't get the color code out there. It's showing you things that are wrong, right? So people in different systems, or people across these two employees across the two different systems that have wage types that are not correct for that period 7 that we just ran for. So this is the quick and dirty version of it. I actually have a more robust engine I'm going to show you in Easy Go Live, which is a little more helpful for parallel runs and the end user actually having to validate their stuff. But for your purposes as a consultant, you copy the config, you copy some employees, try to calculate the payroll, and then you compare it between the two systems. Obviously, what I showed you today, we're checking boxes, right? It's not super rocket science out there. You do have to have, some idea of how payroll works and how it's configured. Usually the hardest thing to set up in all this stuff is getting all the RFCs, getting the technical team on board and connecting the systems. Once that's done, this can go pretty smoothly. I'll pause one more time for questions before we go to Easy Go Live. Okay, this deck, so Easy Go Live. A couple things come with Easy Go Live that are slightly different than what's in Easy Migration. So first part of Easy Go Live is, again, this was designed also as an end user tool. And in some cases, the client is responsible for loading Employee Central. And I honestly, we built this because I got it from another customer that actually, we're going to include this in here. One of our customers actually did it because they didn't want to use, InfoPorter to move the data from their old system into the new system. And I'm like, everyone's going to use InfoPorter, but we've come to find out is that InfoPorter, for those of you who don't know, is the tool that SAP provides to take your old system data and load it into Employee Central. But you have to be on a certain enhancement pack for that. And we have some customers who are not on that enhancement pack, so they are doing this exact process. What we've done is, there's 2 ways to get data into Employee Central. You can use InfoPorter, or you can load flat files. We deliver with the Go Live solution, if a customer is responsible for loading their own data, report templates that go in and read their ECC data. They have mapping fields in here that obviously have to be updated depending on what they're putting in to load the different entities that are in Employee Central, right? So you can see these are the entities listed that you typically would have to load if you were doing a file import. So this does come with Easy Go Live. Again, if you have InfoPorter, use it. If you don't, because you don't have the capabilities, we do provide a mechanism to help you guys build those flat files out there to get that data loaded into Employee Central. So that's phase 1 of Easy Go Live, if you need it.
Can I ask you a question about the data load?
Sure.
Can this do subsets of data from ECC to EC? So say there's an example where a customer has split off from their parent company. So we need to move some data from the original ECC system, but not all of it, maybe based on, some portion of the org structure or something like that.
I want to say yes. So when I think about it from an employee standpoint, employee by employee, I'd say yes, because you would know when that employee moved. I think when it comes to like dynamically doing it, like if we had to build a rule for that for, everyone in the company, we really have to look at that rule to see how do we determine at what point to cut the data off. So I don't want to give you something like answer like yes.
But I'm guessing or assuming or something that it includes org structure as well, right? It's not just moving employee data. or is it just?
That's correct, right? So those different entities out there for position, department, division, those would be mapped based on some of the org elements and the org units and whatnot. Yes, we have
right.
templates for those as well.
I guess that's really what I'm saying, is being able to identify specific nodes in an org structure and say, okay, everything that falls under this cost center, including divisions, departments, associated positions, and again, I don't expect that you can necessarily say, definitely yes or definitely not. I guess that's just kind of a wish list thing from me.
Well, the one you just gave, like everybody under this cost center or this like structure, yeah, I can definitely do that because we just did it, at another customer. So you could pick a node in the structure and it would traverse that entire node and get the hierarchy, positions, jobs, and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, killer. Thank you. That was really my question. Thank you.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Cool. Production data load, right? So again, easy migration. We do have customers or easy go live, and you can obviously load production data because you guys are consultants. But in some cases, we have had clients that need to load. They have to load their own production data out there. So we have included all those employee cloning features that I just showed you. They are in here from a client perspective as well. They can load the production data should they have to do it. If they're not the ones doing it, you guys can obviously do it as well to move the production employee data into the new payroll system. And then I'm just going to show you this because we're on time. There is a better mechanism for comparing. Let me go to this one. For comparing data across systems, we have a better tracking capability because it'll run more than one process to compare at a time. And for these people are coming from SAP, so we have the ability to talk between the two systems. What also can happen, depending on your project you're bidding on, is this person might not be on SAP. So what you need to do is you can take a file from their prior system and use that as the basis, right? So instead of comparing RFC to RFC, wage type to wage type, that's like for like, you can take files. So let's say somebody's coming from Ceridian and you're putting them on SAP payroll. Ceridian payroll is not going to have a wage type, right? That's some sort of pay code. It's obviously going to have an amount and things of that nature. You can still take that file, map the pay codes into wage types, and we have a mechanism to do that. We have mapping tables you can load into the system to do that on the fly, and then you can take that file and compare it in this same solution out there. So there's a little more robustness that comes with the Go Live solution, just because it has to, right? Not everybody's coming from SAP. Some people might be coming from Ceridian or Workday or whatever out there. So we do have some facilities to help with that. So keep that one in mind. And then our last tool that we have out here is the investigative payroll issues, which is my favorite tool that we wrote. It's been around for a while too. We just bundled it in here. But this was the tool where, you're going live, or heck, you're just validating parallel payroll and you're like, why is this guy's pay off, right? This solution allows you to pick a pay period. That's the bottom left box over here. And it will automatically tell you things that happened in that pay period, like this guy retro, there was a difference of this. And then you can go in and drill down and see exactly where that difference came from. And there's even master data audits in this thing to show you which piece of master data changed that probably affected that change in pay. So this is my favorite tool, and I wish I had it, 10 years ago when I used to do this all the time. So that said, let's pop over back to the system. So the one thing that I'll show you that's probably the pride of Easy Go Live is that testing suite that's out there. Because once you get it up and running the way you want it, it's easy to constantly validate your pay out there. So I don't know if they put them in the system yet. Did they put the org? No, they put the org reports, and I was going to show you an org export file out there. I could just because you asked about it, but it's not here yet. But that's okay. But the real thing is this: the parallel run compare out there, because not only can you can run a set of scenarios, right? So instead of just having that one report where you can look at wage types out there, you can actually build your own custom stuff out there, because maybe you're not just validating pay related items. Maybe you want to validate master data, or maybe someone's got this crazy pension process you also have to check. What you can do is you can set up scenarios for this. So instead of just running one process, when you kick this thing off, it'll run multiple processes and analyze them for you. So what you essentially do is there's some automated scenarios. We only have 2 out here in this system, but you can imagine, when I do a go live, all right, I got to validate time loaded correctly. I got to validate this. I got to validate that. We can build custom reports that look at those bits of information so you can check your process end to end. In this case, this process is just set up to compare some master data that's in the new system with what's in Employee Central to make sure like replication's working and things of that nature. And it's doing a payroll results compare from the old system to the new system. This, I will say, this SAP to EC compare, I seem to build it now. You would kind of have to build it by hand because the metadata is different across customers. But we see it happening a lot. I'll actually show you what it looks like. So let's run this. So this is really the main feature of Easy Go Live, that and the investigation, which I'll show you too. I'm not going to run one of these. You can create new runs and keep going. I'm going to look at an existing one that we've run, which is going to give us the same results if we ran it completely outright. So obviously you can see we have these different runs that we've already done. We're going to take a look at this one right here. All right, so it ran our two scenarios. It ran our SAP to EC master data comparison scenario out there, and it ran our payroll results comparison out there. We can see that there are some issues that occurred within these things. It's very similar to what you saw when we did the Easy Migration, where it was comparing the results, but it's actually storing them. So one, you can go back and look at prior runs. You saw we had that run list out there of the different runs. And not only that, as you do those prior runs, you can actually, make some notes in there. So for each one of these things you do, you can actually make corrections or at least flag things as being corrected as you go. So these people are all good. Everyone's green. Their hours, rate, and amount match across their remote hours and rate out there. But if we go down, right, certain people are not matching out here, right? And what you can do is you can actually set some statuses on these. You can sit here and say, all right, you know what? This one is there's 706 Medicare tax. We can set some notes in here. So the next time we come back, it's actually in here. Oops, I didn't hit the note button. Sorry, you can change the status of it so you can only filter next time on things that match than things that didn't. If you want to say like, oh, it's corrected or this is fine. Like taxes are always a little bit off, in my opinion, when you go from system to system. But you could put notes in here and say, Jim looked at this. It's good, right? And then the next time you run this, right, or anyone runs this scenario, that note for Maxine, oops, that note for this person would show back up, right? So here was Sherry's prior note. Who put that in there? This wage type needs to be remapped, right? So it does give you a little more features when you're comparing, wage type by wage type, person by person, and tracking that. In that one, you know what you did in the past, what the prior run looked like, because we're keeping track of it. So if you ever want to go back, like, what happened in parallel one with that, right? You'll have parallel one sitting here for that specific payroll area. So you can always go back and check against what you did, which is kind of cool. And then of course you do get, a little more note tracking, a little more capabilities out there, and you can run multiple scenarios. So as part of a parallel, again, you might do your master data compare to see what's right between the two systems. So this is their first name in ECP, the payroll system. This is their first name in in Employee Central, right? This matches, this matches, this doesn't match, right? This is obviously a simple example out there, but something went wrong with loading this guy into Employee Central. So you can bring on any field you want from Employee Central, any field you want from the payroll systems, and you can build reports out here to see if your data load was correct. And this is kind of an ongoing thing. I know Employee Central is the replication monitor, but the replication monitor is only as good as the person who has to go fix the stuff. So we do have customers who, downstream payroll, they have calculation. There were some errors out there that people didn't fix. And this is just like a safety net, if you would, to run this, at night in the background, and you can see what things are not matching anymore in your system. And the last part of Easy Go Live, we got a little time, is our payroll issues, right? Let's say somebody calls up, or you're looking at somebody and they have a problem. Well, what's the problem? Let's pull up an employee, right? So this one works employee by employee. And again, this is my favorite solution, right? So what it does is it lists, and this guy's payroll's way back when, it lists every payroll result they've ever had. So if you brought over the history, you'd see all that too. And of course, you'd see the most recent run that you probably calculated out there. What's cool about this is before you even know what the problem is, or especially if the customer is asking you a question about it, it's going to tell you exactly what happened in this pay period. They calculated 3 periods back. They got a retro positive of $418. They got some arrears coming out. It looks like partial AD&D, and some more is going to be deducted in a future period. Oh, and look, info type 8 was modified. Wonder if that had an impact on our $418. And it's easy to determine, especially if you have any sort of payroll knowledge out there. You can run reports directly against this person's period. let's just kick that off. All right, so we can sit here and say, all right, it was $418. Let's see if we can find it. Ah, there's our $418, right? What happened to that $418? So it's kind of like having recon and all those different elements right here on the screen. I didn't have to go to another transaction or look something up. It's showing me everything I need, right? So they had a salary change out there in pay that calls retro, and holiday pay. And it'll even show you the periods. If there were taxes out here, there's tax authorities and things of that nature. So we can see it did retro back 3 periods, like it said, and accumulated the differences up. And then you're sitting there and going, okay, why? Why did this occur? And that's really the answer, right? I can see that this occurred, and we've been doing payroll a while. Salary and holiday pay is probably their info type 8 that probably changed, and of course it was. But this right here is the needle in the haystack, right? You're always trying to answer that question of why did it occur, and you could take 20 minutes to go figure that out, right? We can just run again some reports on here to see that their info type 8 did in fact change. They probably got more money in the period, and we can see that, yeah, they went from $60,000 to $64,800. So not only can I see the detail of the payroll of everything that occurred by wage type, I can also figure out probably why this occurred out here, at least if it's a master data change, which is insanely helpful. So with that kind of wraps up, the solution set, right? We've talked about moving config, employees, and doing some small validations out there. And then we've also talked about some things that are, that was the migration side. We've talked about things on the Easy Go Live product side, which can include, loading employee central data, using the different templates that we have out here, doing comparisons against legacy files, or talking across systems to actually compare that payroll, and it'll track your runs and the different things that you've done in the past. And then of course, I didn't mean to click on that again. And then of course, okay, we've done all that work, but there's still differences. Let's go investigate what those differences actually are, because one wage type obviously can impact another, and drilling through it using the solution is a whole lot easier than looking at a flat file data load. So with that, I will stop and pause for questions, and then Chris can take back over.
Oh, appreciate it. That's some great stuff. I have a quick question for you, just in general. It's kind of more for our own, I guess, qualifying. But as far as your solution goes, and the we'll call it integration between SAP EC to migrate all of this, is there a minimum version that's required of SAP to support this, or is it across all? For example, ECC 8, Enhancement Pack 8, I think is what we're on now, right? Latest. Is there a minimum of that that a customer is required to run? As you can probably imagine, in the public sector, you're either a dinosaur,
yep,
or some are, hey, yeah, let's go to S4 today, right? So
I think we still got some out there on R3. So
yeah.
So you definitely need ECC.
So yeah,
R3 we don't cover.
Yeah.
ECC 6 Enhancement Pack 0 will work. So we did just move somebody who was on Enhancement Pack 0. They were public sector, and they were out of support.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as you're ECC 6, you're good.
Okay.
I have a question. This is more on I guess the licensing is. So as far as it goes, when we're putting in a bid, I'm assuming it's subscription based, and would that last for the duration of the implementation, or would it be we have a 5-year opportunity with client A, that we would price it in that way, or does it depend?
I'll just jump in there, Stephen. So here's how it works with the 2 solutions you've seen today. They're really project-based solutions. As Steve mentioned earlier, kind of the whole point of getting in the door with these is to help you guys migrate the customers, as well as getting them exposed to our other solutions. So for example, in Easy Go Live, you got to see a little taste of Reporter and Clone and Control Center and Help Desk. So the customers will then see the value of actually purchasing those products post Go Live as well. But for the Easy Migration solution and the Easy Go Live solution, those are really the project-based solutions. Easy Migration, for all of our signed partners, you get to use that solution free of charge. We actually do have a team that would work with you on your first few implementations, if not all of them, depending on the complexity, but to get you guys up and running to be able to migrate that configuration over, that's your tool to use. Easy Go Live is really for the customer to use during the project. As Steve pointed out, we have had situations where the customers are hands-off and the partner's doing everything, so that's okay as well. But the goal is to have that easy go live solution signed by the customer. There is a small nominal charge per month for the project. So again, if it's a 6-month project, it's, you know, however many, couple thousand times 6 or whatever it ends up being based on the size of the organization. And it's run through through Hypercare. And then once they go live and they wanted to continue, let's say, oh, we want to keep EasyClone, we really want to scramble data and test data, then we can, you know, say, okay, well, let's show you what a license for EasyClone would look like. And then we would go from there. So really for these two you saw today, the cost to you is $0 for easy migration, and then easy go live would be dependent on the customer size and the length of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, any other questions? I did have a question for Chip. I see he joined a little bit late today. Hi, Chip.
Hi, yes, sorry.
Hi.
I'm here.
No worries. I just was curious, what is your role at Phoenix?
Typically technical lead on the projects. So I'm the guy that specifies the integrations and manages the data migration. You know, I'm the guy with the shovel.
I getcha. Gotcha. Maybe we can get you a really nice shovel.
Yeah, no, this looks beautiful.
How about that? Excellent, excellent. Heather, you're awful quiet today. Any questions from you?
No, like you said, I've been through this a couple times and still always impressed by the product, and yeah, great presentation as well.
Great. Well, thank you. Hopefully we've covered off what you guys needed to see today, Pierce. Of course, if there's any questions or anything else you'd like to see, we're always here to help answer those. And what I can do is I can get you a copy of this deck as well, if you'd like, just so you have it to reference. And then, of course, we have the recording from today we'll send you as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hey, and Chris, I forwarded over those responses that we'll be doing for Bear and for JCOC California. So
okay.
Yeah, and we can yeah. What essentially how we'll work is, you know, if there's any documentation or, you know, boilerplate information, we can include that in our responses and kind of go from there.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I can touch base here offline. We don't need to hold everyone's attention for just to kind of follow up with you on the agreement, and if we want to do an NDA and all that stuff separately for these two deals. But can I just give you a call direct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll do. All right. Well,
Pierce,
again, thank you for
wanted
your time today. Really appreciate it. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to mention quickly, I mentioned that we're kind of here to support you, and one of the things we did with SAP is we worked with their professional services team to kind of map out how these tools kind of fit into their implementation plans, and kind of talked about impact and how it's going to reduce their effort and that kind of stuff. And, you know, if you get to that point, we'd be happy to do that with you as well. I know you were asking about, you know, kind of impact and that kind of stuff, and we're happy to kind of work with you to see how that fits into your line of business.
Great. No, that'd be perfect.
And your plans and so forth. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and everyone have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, y'all too. Pleasure speaking with you.
All right, take care.
Chris. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome, Heather. Bye-bye.
Bye.